I have dude. Are you recording already?
Yeah, I've been recording.
Great. So here's a fun little tidbit. This is advice that I will give to you or anybody. You ready?
I'm ready.
This is a fun little tidbit, and I will give it to you and anybody else listening. When I get seats at the theater, I get the row that has the railing in front of it. Mm-hmm. Why do you think I get the row that has the railing, Odie?
If you say to put your feet up, then you are not living in the 21st century.
It is 100% to put my feet up, but...
There's recliner chairs now.
But not in some of the theaters. Not every theater, Odie. Not
every theater I go
not
to.
Not every theater. But so there are recliner chairs, yes. But the theater I was in did not have them. So one, glad I have the railing to put my feet up. But two, I do it because I feel no problem whatsoever when a theater is full hopping over that goddamn railing to go to the bathroom.
Did you do that during Dune?
Legitimately, well, because other people are getting up and it's a 3-hour movie. People are getting up and they're moving, right? And like, there's people. I felt someone behind me bump into my seat. You know, excuse me, sorry. Oh, everybody's doing all the excuse me, sorry stuff, right? I get up, parkour vault over, right? Just done, down, going to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom, I come back, I vault back over. Real smooth move. Full 180, back down to my chair. Less than a second.
And then everyone claps.
Smooth.
Everyone claps in the theater.
Micah, who was sitting next to me, was like, "They sound all gaib." He just immediately, he's like, "Oh, he's the chosen one." That was too smooth, man.
Love that.
Okay, first off, people have clapped for that before, which, sarcastic or not, I appreciate it. Second off, I don't care if you clap or not. I feel fulfilled knowing that I was more efficient in my trip to the bathroom than anyone else. One, it takes less time. Two, I don't have to excuse myself. It's an amazing trick, and this is like one of those things like, if I were a YouTuber, I'd be like, life hack. If you're in the theater, get seats G10 through G12.
Do you want to know my secret to not going to the bathroom?
Pee your pants.
I just don't get a drink at the theater anymore.
I get the biggest drink, and here it is. Oh, it's a big Dune cup.
What theater did you go to? Did you go to an AMC?
No, we have Regal around here. We do have an AMC theater, but we have Regal as well.
I go to AMC, and the Regal that's theater, where the recliner seats are, my friend. And Nicole Kidman.
Our Regal theater has reclining seats. Not the one I went to. But I got Dune Part 2 only in theaters.
Only?
This cup won't age well.
You should definitely see this movie in IMAX. I would recommend that.
I did. I saw it in RPX, which is like...
No, I'm just saying that like it would be good in IMAX.
Oh, yeah. No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got the giant cup. And I got the giant popcorn bucket.
Oh,
I don't normally throw down like this on movies, but I threw down for Dune.
You? I did not.
Man.
I spent zero.
I threw down like I had Harkonnen pockets, baby.
Oh, God. Those guys are ugly.
Are you ready to start the podcast?
I'm ready to start the podcast.
That's amazing.
He's drinking out of his cup, ladies and gentlemen.
Here's one other little bit. It's a House Atreides cup because I got the Atreides top.
Ew.
Here's a really funny thing. The girl who is helping me...
Atreides are good. Never mind.
Well. No one's really that good in Dune.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But I was like, she was like, we have the 4 symbols. I don't know what they mean, but do you have a preference on this? I was like, oh, the houses. Yeah, I'll take House Atreides. And she was like, those are houses? I know it's not Harry Potter, but like, yes, they're houses. Believe it or not, other fictitious universes existed long before Harry Potter have houses. Let's start the fucking podcast. Play the music, Odie. You cue it this time.
Okay, I'll cue it. It's going.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Odie, hit the button.
I hit the button.
Then say the secret password.
Star Wars is better than Dune.
That's not the secret. Oh, no, you started the wrong theme music. We have to deal with it anyway. All right. You ready to clap?
I'm ready to clap.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Yeah. You know what I'm going to play there for your Star Wars bit? Your little Star Wars joke? It's going to go wow, 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 wow.
That's not fair that you have all the editing power, but that's fine. I can change it for YouTube.
You can have any editing power you want.
I change it for YouTube. It's fine.
That's fine. Welcome back to another episode of the Unpop Podcast. I am Kevin Miner, your Capitan Todo Siempre. With me, as always, is...
Chef, they, them.
That's right. Oh, I forgot to say he, him. I'm he, him.
You are he, him.
Still he, him. I should announce it every week just so everyone knows. This week, we're going to get into Dune, but first off, we have to talk about this. It was in my mind all week. This fucking Willy Wonka Glasgow shit. This is the first, this is the first bit of AI chaos that has happened in this world, like where people have used AI photos and people who are less aware of AI photos purchased tickets to an event based on AI photos and then went to the event and did not get what was in the AI photos. Go figure.
And there was also AI scripts for all the actors.
Yes, and they printed off AI scripts, which they obviously did not proofread. If you're going to print off first off, if you're going to print off anything in AI, proofread it, right? You have cut down on the work that you have to do already.
Yeah.
Proofread it.
Absolutely.
But for anybody listening that doesn't know about this, I don't know how you don't know about it, but there was a Willy Wonka adventure in Scotland, and the promoters for the event, the people who hosted the event, basically, I don't know if they rented out or if they own the warehouse, but either way, there was a warehouse available, and they said, hey, come and enjoy all your chocolatey dreams and candy fantasies, and a bunch of people purchased tickets to go, and they showed up in Glasgow, and what they got was some stationary gummy bear decorations and a rainbow and a weird Oompa Loompa candy station with two people working there. And apparently there was some guy wandering around with a metallic face who looked like a rejected Slipknot member named The Unknown, because that's what an AI script would write. And he was just popping up from behind a mirror that he himself held and scaring the bejesus out of your children.
Oh, yeah.
Giving them nightmares for the rest of their lives.
And apparently it was a rival chocolatier that lived in the walls and stole chocolate. That was the backstory.
That was the loose backstory, was that he, what the script said, we don't know his name, but he lives in the walls. And he's here, and it was kind of vague. Is he there to steal the chocolate? Is the chocolate that he makes evil? Is the chocolate evil, and he's here for it?
I think so.
We don't know. But the thing that I really want to point out is as this story developed and people got curious and reached out to the actors who were involved, it turns out that the actors, and this happens a lot, even in blockbuster movies, but the actors were kind of all right, we've been paid to do this thing. Whether or not we do it is up to us, but people are going to show up for it. And so this burden that has now rolled downhill from these irresponsible venue promoters, right? Just promoters. Let's call them promoters. They're promoters. These non-professional promoters has fallen on our shoulders, and we're going to do the best that we can. And there are some really nice pictures that have surfaced of the actors having a good time with some people who were willing to try and commit to the idea of having a good time in this area, right? Because I can imagine some kids would show up and be like, whoa, it's not everything I dreamed of, but look, there's a gummy bear and a rainbow and an Oompa Loompa. Kids, sometimes kids can suspend disbelief. I mean, they believe in Santa for a god-awful long time.
That's true.
Yeah.
Did you see the guy behind it, his apology?
Yeah, he said, we don't know how this turned out so bad.
Yeah, he's like, I don't understand how this turned out so bad. And then
it's yes, you do.
And
yes,
then
you
also, I brought it up. For one, on Facebook, it's posted underneath the House of Illuminati. That's a giant red flag right there.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
House of Illuminati's hosting a Willy Wonka event for your kids.
And then it says at the end of his apology, right, which he kind of says what you said as well, but he says, I ask for a bit of time to process everything that has happened. My intention is to learn from this experience. Your support and understanding during this time means the world to me.
This sounds like a guy who's going to rehab.
What? Dude, you probably terrified so many kids in your responses. I'm processing this. Please leave me alone. I'm sorry.
Not only that, you're responsible for a partial riot, bro.
Basically. That's
crazy,
amazing.
crazy.
I love it.
Here's another thing I wanted to bring up. So I finished Avatar. The first season.
Okay.
And I want to give you my full critical analysis of it.
Let's go.
And it's very short and sweet.
I love it.
1, it was fine. It was fine. It wasn't it like many a show that exists nowadays. It was actually like some shows that exist nowadays. It was better than average.
Okay, yeah.
Does that mean it was the best? No. Was it
better
great?
or worse?
I don't know. Up to you. Watch it. But like, it was fine. Like, I didn't finish watching and go, wow, I regret having that on at all. You know, like I got to the end and I was like, okay, cool. I forgot that part of the plot of Avatar was some weird thing with a fish in all of a sudden. Yeah, I was like, I forgot about that. I was like there, and this is something that even in the cartoon, like I remember like getting to that point in the cartoon and being like, wait, what now? Like, why is it's a god, but it's gonna be a fish, but like it's super mortal, like it's like very vulnerable. I don't know, like like
sure.
there's some parts of the world building there. I'm like, this just it doesn't make sense.
Let me ask you this: is it better or worse than Monarch?
Better.
Okay, cool. That's actually
Monarch.
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good.
Monarch had
comparison.
too much explication and too many scenes where it was just like a bunch of people in a room looking anxious and or worried. You know, like Monarch was a lot of people that were like, "Whoa, we gotta go do this right now," because I don't know, like there's a fucking portal here. Like, yeah, Monarch may have been written by AI.
It might have been.
I don't know. The dude. So. The other thing, last thing before we like really get into Dune, because I do want to like touch on Dune a lot. And we'll do Dune spoilers before we drop that. But so before going to see Dune, I kind of had like a whole Dune day. You know, like I woke up that morning and I watched a Dune day.
You woke up that morning and put black stuff all over your body and dunked into tar.
And then I put black stuff on my teeth and jumped into a fighting pit.
And then you rode a sandworm. Yeah, Dune Day.
Yeah, and then I harnessed a sandworm and ran it against the Emperor and his troops. Spoilers. Spoilers for a book that came out forever ago. I went back and I watched Jodorowsky's Dune. You can either say Jodorowsky or Jodorowsky. I don't care. If anybody wants to say Jodorowsky, go ahead. If you want to say Jodorowsky, go ahead. Both pronunciations are fine. I believe he's from Mexico, so Jodorowsky would be it. But it's a name that comes from another space. Anyway, it's such a weird last name, right? So you've got this guy, Jodorowsky, and Dune, written by Frank Herbert, originally published in Analog, the sci-fi magazine, in 3 parts as a 3-part story, and then there were 5 additional parts that were added on to it later. They got recompiled, edited, a little bit added on, a little bit taken away, and turned into the original book, Dune. That book, they could not get published. It got denied by more publishing places than people like to quote J.K. Rowling as being. Everybody's like, J.K. Rowling got denied 19 times. This was like 20 plus for Dune. People were just like, nah, we can't do this weird political poli-sci space opera, man. But eventually a car magazine, a publisher that primarily did car magazines, up to this point only really did car magazines. They were like, yeah, we'll print that. So Dune gets printed. Obviously, it catches hold. People are like blown away by the storytelling. Frank Herbert had actually written this over the course of roughly 8 years, like the better portion of a decade to write the story, right? Once it's finally published, it becomes wildly popular, but it's viewed as being nigh unfilmable because of the scope and scale of the book itself. Yeah.
I can see
so
that.
People think it's unfilmable. This guy Jodorowsky comes along in the 60s. Speaking of riots that were caused, Jodorowsky releases his first film, Fido Elise, and that film at a Mexican film festival literally caused a riot. It was so over the top for its time and like avant-garde and weird. And he had already been doing stuff like this in the theater space. But then he grabbed hold of film, and he was like he even says in the documentary Jodorowsky's Dune, which is on Max, so you can watch it. He's like, I wanted to do film, and in Mexico at the time, you had to go to like this filmmakers union and like tell them that you want to do film and like get approved or something. And he's like, and I was like, why do I have to get approved to do art? I'm just gonna do this. So he does it. He causes a riot. It's crazy. He ends up getting some money to produce his next film. He produces a film called El Topo. El Topo actually has his son in it, and it has him in it. It's really weird. It's kind of like reminiscent of French New Wave, which I think is why the French liked him so much. And that comes into play later. Jodorowsky, El Topo, like, once again, like, rave reviews. People are like, whoa, this guy's doing crazy things with film that we've never seen before. What's up? And so Jodorowsky then gets like $1 million to do whatever he wants with, and they're like, go make a movie. So he makes Holy Mountain, and I've told you about this, Odie. This is one of the weirdest films of all time, but it is referenced all over different types of media. It's like, it's hugely like popular in many subcultural realms, and it's actually it's been referenced. I think Wes Anderson uses symmetry sometimes that's very reminiscent of some of the shots in Holy Mountain. The band Closure in Moscow, the cover to their album Pink Lemonade, references Holy Mountain by Jodorowsky. Kanye West, of all people, of course, has referenced Jodorowsky. It keeps coming up time and time again because it's a notorious film at this point. It's also very weird. Like, remember how we were talking about The Boy and the Heron?
Yes.
That's like the PG version. That's Miyazaki's Holy Mountain. Like, it's like the PG version. Like, I think there's even there's a pelican in Holy Mountain. Anyway,
Jodorowsky's still alive, by the way. He's almost 100.
Yes, he's very old.
Crazy.
His son is also still alive and was going to play Paul Atreides in his Dune. So let's jump forward to Dune. Jodorowsky, he gets offered the opportunity to. Basically, they're like carte blanche. They're like, tell whatever story you want, do it your way. We want to see it, right? And he goes, I want to do Dune. And everybody's like, that is unfilmable. And he's like, I don't care. I'm going to France and we're doing Dune. And so he goes to France. He sells everything he owns. And he convinces other people to do the same thing. He's like, sell everything you own. We're assembling a team in France, which sounds crazy until you realize the people he got to agree to this project. Now, I think it would be worth anybody's time to watch this documentary just to understand how something that never even got made can be so influential. It's amazing. But the people that he assembles, he basically convinces he's doing a lot of this himself. Like, he's basically a producer on his own film. He's like reaching out to people. He gets Orson Welles to play Baron Harkonnen. He's got his son training. He's got his son training to play Paul Atreides. He's like, you have to be a warrior, and like sends his son off basically on like a spiritual journey to become Paul Atreides for this movie. He gets one of the best French figure artists of the time, who is really famous in the comic book space, but who in the artist space goes by Moebius, right?
Morbius.
Mobius or Moebius, not Morbius.
It's
I know you just watched that movie. It's on your head. It's right in the front of your skull.
It's always there now.
It's always there. The bag of chips. So he gets this guy. He's got Orson Welles. He's getting Mick Jagger to play Fade Rotha, who eventually gets played by Sting, which I think is just David Lynch's version of not getting Mick Jagger, but finding someone akin to that. And then, he got so many amazing. And then he gets H.R. Geiger to do a lot of the art for it because he's obsessed with it. Like, he loves H.R. Geiger's art. H.R. Geiger is the person who drew a lot of the inspiration for the xenomorphs in Alien, and also worked on a lot of the inspiration for like Blade Runner, things like that. So H.R. Geiger's fingerprints end up being all over culture himself anyway, but specifically some of the work that he did and that these other people did for Dune ends up just working its way out into the culture. Now, the film gets taken away by Dino De Laurentiis' daughter, and then Dino De Laurentiis taps David Lynch to make the film. David Lynch is making the film, and De Laurentiis kind of like famously took control over that too, and really like kind of put some of the kibosh on Lynch's ideas and the things that Lynch was doing with it, and tried to make it more of a mainstream blockbuster, which ended up creating something that was like not a flop but not a success. And Jodorowsky even says in the documentary, like, when he saw it, he was afraid to see it because he would be so sad. He's like, no, it will destroy me if I watch this. But then he watched it and he was actually happy. He's like, this isn't as good as it could have been. But I really I love I love that, like, that film never got made, and then you see references to it everywhere. Like, when I was watching the movie, just some of the shot ideas that he had for panning in and out, they've been in movies like Contact, Prometheus, some of, like, the more avant-garde, like, costume design ended up getting incorporated into Flash Gordon. A lot of the different scenes ended up being, especially some of the combat narrations, I can only assume were seen by some of the people who ended up working or worked on by some of the people who ended up working on Star Wars, because you see very, very similar sword fighting stances, things like that for the lightsaber battles. And then ultimately, like, we all know, like, there's a lot of influence from Dune that went into Star Wars. You and I have talked about this. Star Wars kind of ends up being its own thing, and very much is its own thing now. But just the scope and scale of a thing that never got made, and then got made unsuccessfully, not once in the 80s, but technically twice, because then there's the 2000s adaptation, early 2000s adaptation on the Sci-Fi Channel, right? So it gets like it kind of falls short twice, and then finally 2021 comes around, and I think we can all kind of officially say, like, Denis Villeneuve has the interpreted, like, the agreed upon proper interpretation of these books, or rather not interpretation, but translation of, like, the majority of these books to screen.
Oh yeah, Denis Villeneuve is
here.
He is without a doubt one of the best directors of the modern times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah. I mean, Arrival, amazing. Sicario is
incredible.
I was talking with Michael last night, and, like, we both agreed, like, Sicario is great, and that's his worst film. You know, Prisoners is a total, like, sleeper film that a lot of people haven't seen. And then
Blade Runner 2049.
One of my favorites.
Easily.
Yeah. So he's, Denis Villeneuve's done such a really great job with this franchise in particular. And as we know from this past week, it's already the previews crushed at like 12.4 million in just preview night. And then this weekend, it really, like, I mean, the theater was packed. I think if that's any indication, like, in a year where theaters are not typically packed, to have a packed theater is amazing.
Especially at a 9:30 showing.
Yeah. So that's really good. I totally forgot about this as well. Micah, who I went to go see this with, he actually interviewed Denis Villeneuve for, I think, filmmaker.com. right after Dune came out last time. So this was like a full circle event for our little friend group. Yeah, it was really fun. And all of my film friends, like you, Micah, Victoria, a lot of the people that I know who have done film, written films, done short films, done sound or video, things like that. We're all kind of fawning over it right now. We're like, oh my God, we finally, and it's so good. I honestly, I think it's because, one, yes, it is that good. Two, it's like so much better than anything else that's come out.
Oh my God, like, isn't it though? It's the best movie this year by far.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
like,
by far.
Easily the best. And
well, Beekeeper.
Shut up. Get out of here. If Jason Statham's so good, let's see him actually make it into like a proper film like this. Let's see him not play the same guy in an action film.
How dare you? I mean,
you're not wrong though?
How can you say something so brave yet so controversial?
Yeah, right. But so, overall, before we do spoilers on Dune, like, what did you think of part 2 in comparison to part 1?
So, I saw an article headline, and I pretty much avoided everything for Dune part 2. Yeah, I don't even remember
even
watching,
the book. No.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. Especially the book. I burned it. No. I don't even remember watching a trailer for Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
And now part of that is because I really like the cinematographer behind this movie, so I always like to be surprised by his work.
Yeah.
And going into Dune Part 2, I read a thing that said you could basically go in without even watching the first part, and it still be like a movie that makes complete sense. And like, we did our deep dive on Dune, but I've only seen the first part once. I never got around to rewatching it before the second. And even without that rewatch and familiarity with the first part, this, even by itself, is one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It is already, like, it's going to be in my top 5 somewhere. But this is a movie that balances everything so fucking perfectly, from the narration, from the dialogue, to the action, to the in-between, to the tension building, to the relief, to the villains, to the introductions. There's not a single character that's not introduced that you don't know, oh, this is this person and this is their role. Here's why they're here. Yeah. Like, it's just, it's beautiful.
I want you to say it one more time. This is the what? This is one of the what?
Greatest movies of all time.
Play the party music. Woo! Yeah, party. No, that's not. Nope. That's not what it. Nope. Stop.
No. Party's over.
Bum, 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 bum. You know the party music. I got all the cues. I'm just gonna send you all the music so you know the cues.
Okay.
You got to know. I keep making more too. I'm like,
I know. It's great.
Right. I did have the Dune sound effects the last time. I should do the Dune sound effects again. Anyway, yeah, I agree with you. Definitely one of the best films I've ever seen. I mean, you know where I stood on the first one. I had already watched it like 100 times. It falls into the same category as Lord of the Rings for me. Like, I wouldn't. Like, it's almost a separate tier from the things that I would consider my favorite movies. Like, because if you ask me like top 10 favorite movies, it would be unfair to list trilogies and stuff, you know? Like, but the first 6 are 2 trilogies, you know? Like, they're kind of separate. Like, these are films that I love the shit out of.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed every second of it. Yeah. And there were parts where I knew what was going on. I had a little bit of confusion at like a couple moments that were like similar enough to the book, but just different enough that I'm like, I know I've re-listened to this recently, but I don't know if this is exactly. No, this isn't how this played out. Like I was kind of looking, and I was like looking at the screen, and I was like, and you know, Mike and Victoria are like, what? And I was like, this is different, but I can't figure. Oh, yep,
different.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, so let me tell you
but
this,
in a good way. Okay, so let's get into spoilers. Dune
I want to say this
spoilers.
first.
What? Okay.
Well, yeah, spoilers, and then I'll say this. So.
Okay. Dune. Wait. First off, how amazing was it on a scale of 1 to 10 sandworms?
10 sandworms.
10 sandworms. All right. Spoilers
Easily.
right now. All right.
Okay. So the first thing I want to say, because it's the first thing that I want to talk about, is I think the weakest part of this movie, my least favorite part of this movie, is Austin Butler playing that character. I can't remember his name because I'm bad at pronunciations.
That is a hot take. Fade Rotha.
So
that is a hot take. Why?
Here's why. Every time he opens his mouth to speak, he either sounds like he's doing an impression of the guy who's playing the Baron, or he sounds like he's trying to cover up and do like almost a Christian Bale Batman voice. I do like the way that he chose to speak is so wildly inconsistent. Yeah. Or at least it sounds wild. Like, again, it sounds like a lot of the time he's trying to do an impression of the Baron. And then when you put him in and he's talking with the Baron and Dave Bautista's character, Dave Bautista's character is just doing like a normal voice. Obviously,
Dave Bautista's just being Dave Bautista.
Stellan Skarsgård, who plays the Baron, is doing his voice, but it just sounds like Austin Butler is just like mimicking the Baron the best he can, and it just it never sat right with me. Great character, great performance, physically great. Love everything that happens with him, but when he opens his mouth, it's the only thing that kind of took me out of it a little bit. Yeah.
So there's I slightly disagree. One, because I thought it was a good choice for the voice, because I'm like, oh, cool. So like some of the Harkonnens just sound like that. Like that's fine. That's cool. I'm with it. Yeah, I was like, okay, cool. It kind of sounds like the Baron. It was slightly inconsistent. Like I think Austin Butler he had a brave choice as an actor and picked a voice that was very raspy and guttural and like kind of really tried to embody that spirit. And there were some points where like maybe he didn't sound exactly the way that I think he hoped he would sound, but ultimately it ended up making the character a little more unique. And I would actually say that in the scene where it was Baron Harkonnen, him, and Dave Bautista, it actually made Dave Bautista's performance seem a little lesser, because Dave Bautista's just being Dave Bautista. I mean,
Dave
he's
Bautista's
just being Drax. Like,
I gotta be honest, I was kind of surprised at his role in this, and since we're already in spoilers, but like,
let's do
one of my favorite build-up moments was when Josh Brolin, who by the way,
Gurney-holic, baby.
He's my favorite character. I love Josh Brolin. I love that character.
Yeah.
And when he's like walking through and just like tearing through people, and he sees Dave Bautista, and they go to fight, and then within like 2 seconds he just stabs him.
Yep.
Just
okay. No.
Love
okay.
it.
Here's the amazing thing about what Denis Villeneuve did with that scene in particular. It feels very much like a final conflict scene for like about 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's going to be a big fight. And then you realize after it, because it's real quick, dodge, stab, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like you realize that what he did was he showed that the only reason that Raban, played by Dave Bautista, was able to ever get anything up on Gurney Halleck was because it was a fucking sneak attack before. Like,
that's what I thought.
And the poetic part about all of that is it takes place on the staircases where the Sardaukar originally ambushed from behind the Atreides while the Harkonnens are attacking from the front. So, like, it's the scene where the scene previously, so in Dune Part 1, that scene illustrated how the Atreides are super strong. They've already got the high ground. They're fighting the Harkonnens down. They're actually kicking their ass. The Sardaukar show up behind them, and then the Atreides get massacred. But it's because it was unfair. Now, all of a sudden, the odds have been evened. It's 1-on-1, and it's no contest, right?
It's
like,
great.
I loved that. And, like, even when it happened, I, like, hit Micah, and I was like, those are the fucking stairs. Like,
but you don't actually see that first encounter between those two characters, do you?
No, but what it is it's one is representing Atreides, one is representing Harkonnen, right?
No, I was just wondering if I maybe
really
forgot that scene from the first part or something.
No, the only difference between the two of them in the first one is you see how they behave differently as so Gurney Halleck is the appropriated proper war master for the Atreides. Raban is kind of like an ipso facto war master just because he's been called on and he likes blood, to like wrangle this. He's governor, essentially. Like, he's governor duke of whatever, of Arrakis, Dune. But like, so you only see the different way that they behave in the first one, but ultimately seeing that and you don't see the conflict that they have when Gurney gets captured, but he says, hey, he gave me this scar and let me keep my life. Or, well, he's like, he gave me this scar. So that's a pretty big moment, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so Gurney Halleck having that was super poetic. I want to go through a few things that I really liked that Denis Villeneuve did that are slightly different from the book. Before we even like criticize anything, because there are a couple moments where I was like, okay, that's a little different. But one thing that I really liked that he did was so in the first Dune, the first person to speak, it's normally, so in the book it's Princess Irulan, who's played by Florence Pugh. Mm-hmm. She prefaces the beginning of each chapter with like quotes and stuff in the book. Princess Irulan does this. In the first Dune, Chani, played by Zendaya, has the first word. Now, she is a strong female character who's important for Paul Atreides as he's progressing through his own journey in that, right? So she's a pivotal character for the story. She's super important to the plot, the universe, everything, right? She gets the first words in that movie. Then this one begins with Princess Irulan. Now, in the end of the books, Chani becomes Paul Atreides' concubine, but only in name. Even though like he's like, you'll bear my children, like you're the person that I actually love, and then he marries officially Princess Irulan, right? Because there's, once again, going back, I know we did my Dune deep dive, but like there's a lot of influence in this from medieval times, almost like Crusade style, like like people had concubines, people had so that's still in there, but I thought it was really good that Denis Villeneuve had the foresight to, well, maybe not even foresight, maybe adapted into this, but like having Chani speak in the first one and then having Princess Irulan speak first in the second one. I think he does a really good job of highlighting female agency and strong female characters without having people point at them and going, that's a strong female character, like, which I hate. I hate when that happens in movies. I hate when everybody's just like, oh my God, like, you're so good at driving ambulances, like, like I hate when it's nail on the head. Because it's the same. I wouldn't like it if it's a guy either. Like, I don't like when people are like, oh, he's so fucking strong. Like, it's like, get out.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah. But he did a really good job with that. He also did a really good job highlighting all of the little like poetic nods throughout it. Like the three that I really think of are the interactions between the Harkonnens and different people. Like one, when Gurney Halleck and Raban have their fight, and Gurney Halleck just trounces him. Two, when Paul shows up and sees who we find out is his uncle, right? Did you see that coming, by the way?
No, I did not.
Here's the funny thing about that. It's very much the inverse of the "I am your father" moment, because it's realized separately, but it's critical to the plot and changes the way that like actions are taken moving forward. So it's like it's really cool how that happens. But he says hello uncle, you die like a pig, right? Mm-hmm. Paul Atreides when he when he trips up Gurney and he's like, I recognize your footsteps. That's the first thing that he says to him in the other one.
Yeah.
Right? And then the final is Fade Rotha in this movie, because he's only in this movie. He says, you fought well, Atreides, to the guy that he beat, who really, like, it wasn't like a fair fight. And then he has a fair fight against Paul, and Paul beats him, and he's like, you fought well, Atreides. And I love, like, just the little poetic nods to bring everything full circle and make it like, they aren't huge moments and they aren't drawn out too long. They also don't happen too fast. Like, they get just enough time for us to digest it and really enjoy to savor it. And then it moves on. Yeah. I really enjoyed all of that.
Yeah, he's really good at pacing, I feel.
Yes. Oh, the pacing was great. Yeah. I did not realize how long this movie was while watching it. That's how good the pacing is.
Yeah.
And it's almost 3 hours.
Yeah, sorry.
You're good.
I just totally blacked out for a second. After watching a couple movies recently...
Did you see the future? Did you have a spice dream?
Yeah, I did. After watching a couple movies recently that have really poor pacing, actually just really god-awful pacing in general...
Yeah.
It is refreshing to sit through a movie that is nearly 3 hours long and when it ends, like when it ended, I was like, wait, it's ending? Like what?
Yeah.
It's ending right now? Like what's
so
happening?
Good.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, Dune Part 3 is going to be insane. Is Dune Part 3 going to be more of the main book, or is that another book?
So that's okay. Let's get into some things that were slightly different that I didn't like. Dune, the Part 3 that Denis Villeneuve is now going to do, which will have more Anya Taylor-Joy in it, because she was only in this movie for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, her voice was in it a lot, but she was only in the movie for 5 seconds. But it's going to cover Dune Messiah, which is the second book. Okay. This actually finished Dune. Part 2 finished the first Dune book. Where it was a little bit different is in the end of the Dune book, and I actually think Denis Villeneuve did a really good job with this. In the end of the Dune book, there's like this big discussion that's going on, and like all these agreements that are being made, and like how like things are going to play out, right? And it's like, so Paul Atreides will take Chani to be his concubine. Like, she gets a raw deal, and but he loves her, and then Princess Irulan is his wife, and his mother is the Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserit now, and then there's even more good stuff for House Atreides, and everything seems okay, right? And that book, like the way that it ends is super fulfilling, but Frank Herbert actually knew going into writing Dune Messiah, spoilers, that he had to kind of like kill off that character of Paul. Like he had to bring out like what all the bad parts of that character were. And I think Denis Villeneuve has done a good job of planting those seeds in this book and showing like Chani's resilience to this and how she actually doesn't like that, Paul can see the future and she doesn't want him to be the chosen one. One thing that I don't really like about that is it made the end seem kind of like a little rushed, in my opinion, because there were some things that just happened real quickly that are a little more detailed in the books. But there's one particular moment that just bugged me, and it's where Chani, and I don't think this is in the book. I'd have to go back and really look for it. But Chani says, Lisan al-Gaib should be Fremen. And Lisan al-Gaib literally means voice from the outer world, like from not this planet. So that's like the only line in the movie I was like, kind of just looking at the screen, I was like, I didn't like that one, but okay, whatever. Like,
yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Yeah. And I have a similar moment with like Lord of the Rings where I'm like there's like a couple lines where I'm like, whatever.
Because I was honestly a little confused on why. Maybe I just didn't pick up on it, but it didn't really make a lot of sense to me why Chani was so mad at Paul at the end. Like, I didn't really.
Well, so they've made promises to each other, and she feels like they've grown together as a couple, but she also kind of sees like who he's becoming. And one of the things that she says to him is like, "I'll be yours forever as long as you remain who you are, Paul Atreides." And like, she sees him kind of becoming this new person, this new version of himself that she didn't fall in love with. She fell in love with the guy who showed up to fight along her side by side, not the guy who was going to order people to go across the galaxy. Stilgar, however, fell in love with the Messiah. And I have to say, Javier Bardem as Stilgar in this movie was both one of the coolest little punctuation marks on different scenes, like because he was just constantly like pushing this like Messiah thing the entire time. And it shows what happens when someone has this unquestionable, unwavering faith in something that's just been preached to them. Because we know as viewers that the Bene Gesserit came and they're like, hey, this guy's coming. His name's Lisan al-Gaib. He's going to be your savior. Stilgar believes this to his core. So much that like in the movie, he's like, you have to kill me. Like, he's so ready to just give up his life to Paul Atreides. He's like, no. I understand better than you do, Messiah. Like, this is the way. You have to kill me in order for... Yeah, it's like, it's so nuts.
It is really good.
But it's also the comedic relief. Like, at the very end, when he, like, kills Fade Rotha, and then the first person to speak is Stilgar, he's like, Lisan al-Gaib! I was like, I just started laughing. I was like, of course he just uses his
number one fan.
Further proof that he's the Messiah. And there's even that really funny moment where he's like, I'm not the Messiah. And like Stilgar's like, the Messiah is too humble to recognize that he's the Messiah.
That was a good one. There are so many good scenes with Javier Bardem. So many. Good. And him and Josh Brolin being reunited is
so
nice.
Great. Oh my dude, I loved when he had that scene. All I could think of was, have you ever seen Monty Python's The Life of Brian?
Of course.
So that scene where everyone's outside of his apartment in Rome and like, and he's just like, you're all individuals. And they're like, we're all individuals. And he's like, all right, good, go be individuals. And they're like, how do we do that? Like, tell us how again. And like, and then like they chase him to the pit and he's like, I'm not the Messiah. And the one lady goes, only the true Messiah would deny his own divinity. Like, he's like, well, what kind of a chance does that give me? Like, it really felt like Paul reached that point, and he's like, well, I don't have a fucking chance here. I either accept that I'm the Messiah or I deny that I'm the Messiah until everybody dies. I don't know. But another thing that I want to highlight that Denis Villeneuve did really well is Paul has been having these dreams that are super huge for part one, and then they're still important, but there's less of them in part two, or at least seemingly less. But once he drinks the water of life, aka worm piss, which looks like Nuka-Cola or
it does.
or Blue Gatorade. Once he drinks that and he can see the future, we stop seeing, like, we see that one vision of his, but like after that, there's no more visions. And it's because he talks about, I can see multiple futures at once. And so Denis Villeneuve, one of the best decisions he made was to stop showing us visions. Like, because it would have been boring, because Paul can literally see the future. Like, he can see out further than anybody else now. Because he's the Kwisatz Haderach, which is, and just to get back into it, Paul Atreides. Here are his names: Paul Atreides, Paul Muad'Dib Atreides, which means desert mouse, right?
Yeah.
Lisan al-Gaib, which means voice from the outer world, and Kwisatz Haderach, which is like this prophetized, Bene Gesserit abomination that's been created of a man who can see further than anybody ever. I also I also really love it's not like a throwaway line, but it's almost treated that way when they're asked, like, what happens if a man tries to do the worm piss thing? And they're like, they would die. They can't handle all the empathy of all the previous generations. They don't have the capacity. They die.
I did like that. That was really funny, I really enjoyed that line.
Yeah, just he died. He would die.
Rebecca Ferguson is incredible in this movie too, by the way. Like, huge shout out to a wonderful actress doing a wonderful performance. I mean, everybody's performance. There's not a performance in this movie, because like I said, Austin Butler's voice annoyed me, but like at the end of the day, it was fine. Like it didn't kill me.
Oh my God.
Like everybody's performance, even like Drax, even Dave
even
Bautista.
Drax. even Dune Drax, aka Raban.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So one of my favorite moments in this movie for me personally, in terms of storytelling, was when towards the end, Paul Atreides is in the little ring and Gurney is like pulling Chani down because she's being rambunctious, and they're like all the elders are around the circle, and Paul just like runs up and is like, hey fuckers. But when he's talking to one of the people and he was like, this planet had a different name back then, and he's like, Dune, and I was like, oh, he said the thing.
They said the name. Yeah. I
had forgotten that. I had completely forgotten
that they waited until that moment in the second movie to say it. Thank
so good.
God they didn't say it in the first. If they said it in the first, it would have been so annoying.
Oh my
God,
yes.
So many good choices were made with when things get revealed in this movie. Yeah. And I also, one thing that I really appreciate, another small moment, like it's all these little details that make this world, this universe seem like that much more fleshed out and believable and fun, and like it's such a good ride, and it's a good journey. But I love when they're having that issue blowing up that ornithopter.
Oh yeah.
When Paul and Chani they're trying to work together to blow it up, and the legs from this like sand, the spice crawler are moving, but they're not moving fast enough. And then like all of a sudden one moves and it like ruins their cover, and Paul's got to run. But I love when she finally gets that little like rocket off on the copter, and then she's running, and you just hear her like kind of it almost sounds like she chuckles, like a little victory chuckle, but she's also running, and then just chop her down in the background. I love the way that was shot, and just all the little tiny bits of that, like so good.
That's what I was going to say on top of that. Like every action sequence in this movie, and though there's not as many as I was hoping for, I do feel like the ones that are here actually serve a really good purpose, which makes me very happy. They're not just like, oh, and now these guys are just randomly here and they're attacking you and there's going to be this big epic fight sequence. Like, even in the moment where they're like bombarding the rocks, it's because Austin Butler was like, oh, wait, let's just do this. Like, we have, like, who fucking cares? Like, let's just do this.
Yeah, he's like, you guys are being stupid. Let's just blow them up.
Exactly. And, like, but every action sequence is so beautifully shot, but also the effects in this movie.
Oh,
like, it's hard for me to even imagine that this was, like, probably shot on a green screen, because it looks like they were out in the desert with big props, like, filming this for real.
There were multiple locations. I was watching some of the credits, and what's really funny is there's that beach scene where he's coming down from the sand dunes to the beach, and I remember thinking, like, where is that?
That looks familiar.
Victoria was like, oh, that's Namibia, and then sure enough, there's a Namibia unit from the movie. I was like, oh, good call, Victoria. There's one question that got thrown my way that they did not show in the movie, and I'm glad they didn't, and I don't care if they never try to even explain it. My friend Stephanie goes, how do they dismount the worms?
That was my question.
Here's the thing.
I actually have this question.
It seems like it might take a couple minutes, especially when they've got like all the people traveling on the worms to the south, I was like, but I was really glad they didn't show that, because it would have slowed the whole fucking movie down.
How do they get off of them, though?
Well, okay, so they've got these little like climber things, right? I'm gonna guess. Here's the thing. I'm gonna guess that there's a technological answer to it that we don't need to see or understand. And honestly, for like the guys who are just riding the worms by themselves, like Paul, Chani, Stilgar, anybody who's just riding the back of it, I bet they could tilt the worm enough that they could just jump off.
Yeah.
Like that's like I don't care to have an in-depth explanation over worm dismounting. Like the fact of the matter is they did. And like I don't need it answered. I don't need like this is a world where shields stop high rate propelled bullets and things like that, but things that slow down penetrate them. Like whatever.
That makes sense.
Kind of, but even that is like pseudoscience. Like I've already accepted the shields. I can accept that they just like they're they're the Fremen. They know how to get off the worms.
They just jump off.
Yeah. But ultimately, like, mostly good takeaways from this movie, you know, just like a couple lines that kind of like, I was like, nah, maybe not the best line for the character, but whatever, who cares? Like, in a movie that's so great and grandiose, like, if those are the only bad takeaways, are like a couple things like, oh, they didn't show how they got off the worms. Like,
I mean, let me ask you this: since you're a fan of the book and I've never read it, I didn't feel like there was any dialogue that was out of place for these characters. Do you think that not being a book reader puts you a little bit of an advantage because you might be able to enjoy this more because you're not going to know every single little detail that they changed for better or for worse?
Kind of.
As somebody who, again, didn't read the book and haven't seen the first part since it came out, 3 years ago, everything in this movie I enjoyed because, like, it just made sense in the context of not knowing a lot.
Kind of. There are some parts that, like, I think book readers will appreciate more. There are always going to be some people who are like, the book was better. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah, it was. Of course it was, because And you and I have talked about this before. When you read the book, it's the version that you create. Like, you're the director. You're directing your version in your head. So if it's a book that you love, you already have your favorite movie. You played it. Like, it doesn't matter if Denis Villeneuve is doing it. It doesn't matter if your favorite director is doing it, right? Like, it doesn't matter if, like, the best team in the world is doing it. It might still not be as good as the one in your head. But, like, I would say, I read the book in my late teens, and then I just recently, like December into January, re-listened to it on Audible and really enjoyed the Audible version of it. The Audible's been doing a great job with a lot of the books. Like, I've been delving into fantasy and sci-fi on Audible a lot so that I can read more practical things in my normal time. But I think it's, it's 50-50. Like, some of the moments are better because they're better just watching in live action, and some are not as good.
Okay.
Yeah. And the ending particularly, like, kind of threw me off because I was like, this isn't exactly how that book ended, huh? No, it's not. And that's what threw me out, because like I recognized all the positioning and a lot of the things that were happening, and I was like, oh, it's the end of the book. All right, we're here. And then a couple things that were different happened, and I was like, maybe this is not the end. But then we get that really nice shot of, like, Chani getting ready to ride a sandworm. Stilgar's, like, boarding a bunch of the Emperor's ship. Here, this was one other thing. I was like, in my mind, I was like, wait, who's flying the Emperor's ships? Like, it would seem
what
to
was
me,
going on there.
It would seem to me that, like, all of the different ships would have different people that would know how to fly them. So, like, I can only assume that some prisoners of war are now flying those ships. Now, this goes along with the message of the actual book. And when we get into Dune Messiah and the third one, which I won't spoil that much, but, like, there's a lot of messages about, like, okay, maybe it's not the best thing to wage war ever, but, like, maybe war is not the answer, and, like, this is what we're doing. Like,
so doesn't it take place 12 years after the first book?
It takes place after the first book. I think it starts 12 years after the first book. But it like, I think Denis Villeneuve is setting up to kind of show us, like, here's what's going on. I made a joke, like, in the beginning of the podcast. There aren't really good guys in Dune. And it's a joke, but also it's true. Like, the Atreides are part of the same group of great houses that have been, like, utilizing spice for forever, as the Harkonnens and Emperor Shaddam. Like, and there's the Spacing Guild and the other great houses. They were all benefiting from spice production, right? Yeah. So, like, it's not like the Atreides have, like, no blood on their hands. Like, they participated. They're part of the Empire. This is like, I mean, this would be like, if, like, this would be like if part of Russia seceded, but then, like, took over Russia, but then waged war on the rest of the world anyway. The best way that I can point it out is, like, the Spacing Guilds show up. They have no idea what's been going on Arrakis because Baron Harkonnen made sure that, like, the absolute murder of House Atreides didn't get out to the rest of the galaxy, right? Emperor Shaddam didn't want anybody to know because he basically, like, he did something illegal based on their conventions of warfare, right? Because he didn't go and seek counsel and find the right provocation to go and wipe out the Atreides. You're not supposed to do that. Like, that's part of their rules. You're also not supposed to launch nukes. There's a lot of things. There are things you're not supposed to do. So everybody, like Emperor Shaddam has done something he's not supposed to do. Baron Harkonnen has done something he's not supposed to do. Paul launched nukes. Like, they've all done something they're not supposed to do. The other great houses show up on Arrakis and they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. What the fuck is going on here? And Paul Atreides is like, hey, stand down and I won't lay waste to your houses. And they're like, fuck you, buddy. He goes, no, fuck the galaxy now. Wrong answer, guys. Like, so there's not really a good guy. Like
Nah,
you know, like we
cool,
think he's the good guy, but that's his choice at the end. Is like, all right, instead of having any empathy for anybody else, he's just like, yeah, wrong answer. We're gonna go lay waste
so
to the fucking galaxy.
Is it possible for them? Because if it takes 12 years, takes place 12 years later.
Yes.
I'm wondering how Denis Villeneuve is going to do that, because obviously...
I think he's going to go a little bit later because Anya Taylor-Joy is too old to play a 12-year-old.
Well, that's my question, but also that means that you have to recast everybody.
No, not really. Like, you can go a little bit later. Okay. Spice, remember, also referred to as Spice Melange, also referred to as geriatric spice, grants people long life. So we can forego recasting. Like... Okay. Timothy Chalamet and everybody else can stay and they can look youthful and have blue eyes. It'll be great. But like, so you don't have to recast because it does keep people alive a lot longer. Like even Emperor Shaddam, like he doesn't look that ancient, but he's fucking old, bro. Like he's real old.
They should have dropped the line. He's old. He's really old.
He's real old.
Spice does wonders for you. Then everyone would be like, oh, that's why they're not recasting.
Yeah. But sense. Yeah, so that's part of it. And, you know, and there's something to be said about Anya Taylor-Joy's character. Her name is
Aaliyah.
Aaliyah. Yep, Aaliyah Atreides. Who? Here's a fun little fact for you: is she is as much Atreides as Paul is, right? She is also. They're all part Harkonnen. Like, that's a huge thing. Like, that reveal is way bigger than Luke, I am your father, because it's like. He's your dad. He's Baron Harkonnen is he's his grandfather. So Lady Jessica's dad is Baron Harkonnen.
Yeah. And then
that's
Atreides
fucking nuts because that means Paul is actually a quarter Harkonnen, right? And so is his sister Aaliyah. And Aaliyah, I love how they treated the little, like, Aaliyah can communicate with them now. Like Lady Jessica, she's, like, really walking a fine line between, like, crazy and kind of quiet and comforting. Like, she's just talking to her baby the whole time. And there's that one moment where she's like, be quiet.
I did like that. I did like the
Stop talking.
way that she, like, talked. I did not enjoy the scenes of seeing the embryo in CGI. I was not a fan of constantly
it was
going
fine.
inside.
I mean, how else are you gonna do it? You know, like
just don't.
No, I liked it. I thought it was a good addition. I did. I thought it was a good addition because like it would be dumb if we were just seeing Anya Taylor-Joy the whole time. You know, like all of a sudden her face is just on the screen. She's like, "This is what I'm gonna look like when I'm older." Also, I'm talking to you,
Wizard of Oz style, just like a big hologram.
Yeah, just her face. But one other thing, and I really want to point this out. I love the choices that they made for world building that weren't necessarily in the book, like the fireworks on the Harkonnen home planet,
the
Gedi
Harkonnen
Prime,
home.
were so fucking cool.
Dude,
like,
that whole planet was cool.
It's nuts. Like, would I want to live there? Probably not.
No, definitely not.
But it's so cool, and I love they're like we're under our black sun. They have a fucking black sun, and
that's why
everything's
they're all
white.
like albino. That's
but
when they're in the shadows, they have like normal skin color. I love
cool.
that.
I
love
fucking
that choice.
so many cool artistic choices with this movie through and through. Like really, it couldn't have been. I don't think it could have been better.
No,
legitimately, one of the hands down. Like I said, I said like. It might be early, but this is probably my favorite film of the whole year. The only thing that might come close is the new Guy Ritchie film.
Oh, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare with Henry
Yes.
Cavill.
Which
that movie looks
there was a
good.
preview for that played before this, and I was like, Henry Cavill in Guy Ritchie film.
I love Guy Ritchie, dude.
I'm a fan. Like the cast looks amazing for that. What were the other previews? I think there weren't like a ton of previews before this movie, but like
a ton of previews at AMC.
So just any other final thoughts on Dune Part 2, and then we'll.
Look, yeah, all the characters, all the actors their performances are incredible. All of the scenes and the cinematography and the focus pulling and
so good.
Oh, one thing that I definitely wanted to point out, Greg Fraser, obviously amazing behind the camera, but the fucking sound design for this movie was incredible. Yeah. Incredible how they did this. Like, there are so many moments where I'm just like, and in the first one, like the one that I remember from the first part that stands out to me all these years later is the throat singing.
Oh yeah.
When they're all getting ready for battle. Like, there's so many good sound designs in this movie. It really, really does a good job of elevating it.
Yeah, let me a couple of those. I really love the thumpers have more of a presence in this movie.
Yeah.
Because there's more sandworm activity. I mean, obviously the worms have more of a presence, but like so do the thumpers. And I thought it was really cool how some of the scenes to accentuate like how like the thumpers they had, like it was just that sound and like you heard all the bass from it and the winding as it like brought itself back up and the like that hard like boop, like dude, it was so good. And especially, I mean, like you said, in RPX or in what's the other one, I forget, IMAX, the sound was just nuts in the theater. It was so good. One thing that I really, really, really liked, and this is for Hans Zimmer, thank you for playing the the lower melody of the Dune theme in the Harkonnens instruments after we know that Paul and Jessica are related to the Harkonnens. Like right after that, I started like it was a couple of there were a couple of moments where I was just hitting Micah and I was like, they're playing the Dune theme, but it's with the Harkonnen instruments. I'm so glad I went with him because he and I will do that to each other like the whole movie. And then afterward, we were just like, anytime either one of us did anything, we were just like, Lisan al-Gaib. Like, he knows our ways.
Oh my God.
It was, that's like my favorite part of the entire film. It's just, I can't, probably, okay, favorite part of the film, go. What's your favorite thing in the entire film? Like, just right now. It doesn't have to be forever. Like, it's not cemented in stone. You can change. like off the top of your head, what's your favorite thing from this?
I think my favorite part is when Gurney Halleck is tearing through the soldiers and gets up to Dave Bautista and just wipes. I think that whole sequence
so good
was just very well done. It was beautifully shot and it's very poetic and I loved it. That's definitely my standout.
I like how even in that scene they still showed that there were like Harkonnen ornithopters like pepper bulleting the Atreides soldiers on the ground. And the Atreides they were still winning anyway. Like the Atreides and the Fremen were just crushing everybody anyway. Oh, it was all Fremen pretty much. Also love that Gurney Halleck's a pirate.
Yeah.
When they first meet him again, I'm a pirate now, and that's why I've got a scar near my eye. Like
I love that.
It's so great.
He's a smuggler.
He's a smuggler. Yeah. Which is great. My favorite thing straight up through and through this entire movie is Stilgar. Like I love the way that his faith grows and hits like a critical mass somewhere about midway through the film. His faith hits a critical mass and it just does not stop.
Yeah.
And it mirrors the way that like the Harkonnens believe in themselves. You know, like Fade Rotha really believes in himself. Baron Harkonnen really believes in how, like, you can just, if you have power, you just have power. Like, you can do anything, right? Stilgar believes in Paul. He gives up his power to someone else, and that gives him and the people around him more strength somehow. You know, like, I just thought that was really good. And then my other favorite thing is I love the moment where they get up to the nuclear safe and it's like, oh, it's locked. And then it's like, yeah, but Paul's here. So you can just like, hey, he's an Atreides. We got it. It's fine. His genetic lineage that's what gives us access to the nukes. He's a Nepo baby.
For nukes.
He's a Nepo baby. He's a nuclear Nepo baby. And we've got a bunch of spice.
Yeah.
The space cocaine and the Nepo babies of Dune. I don't know how people can expect, like, here's what's going to be really funny. People are going to go into Dune 3 expecting the continuation of a heroic journey. And I think they're going to be very surprised with what they end up getting.
Yeah.
Because it is not going to be Paul Atreides, savior of the universe.
No.
And he says it. He said it in Dune 1. He said it in Dune. And so I really like, and this is going to happen. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter how many times we say it to however many people we say it to. Like, people are going to go to the theater expecting this to be the continuation of this hero journey. And they're going to leave feeling a little politically confused.
Yeah. Does a good job of that. Yeah. It really does.
It really does. Oh my God. All right. What's your jam this week?
My jam
is it week. Dune? Is it Dune?
I mean, I guess really. I mean,
it's
Dune is one of the very few movies I actually watched this week that I'm willing to talk about. I did watch a really bad movie called Bloodshot.
Yep.
But I did watch for the first time the George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez directed From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, dude, love that movie.
Yeah, with Selma Hayek and Danny
so
Trejo.
Good.
What a movie. I didn't know the twist, so I went in blind, and it starts off famously George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino being brothers. You know, they're on this like spree. They capture this family where there's a preacher and they have a motorhome and 2 kids, and then all of a sudden they're at a bar. And spoiler alert, there's vampires there.
Everybody's vampires, and now you gotta survive the night.
And one of my favorite things about this movie. Is that
Quentin Tarantino's a psychopath?
I fucking hate Tarantino. He's so weird. He's so weird.
But he's such a good character in this movie.
But is he? I mean, he is. But like when he dies, I'm so happy. Spoiler alert: when he dies, I'm so happy. But my favorite thing.
Oh
in this
he
movie,
gets turned into a vampire.
Yeah, he dies twice, thankfully.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing is there's a character named Sex Machine who has the pistol in the crotch.
Yes.
And he is played by Tom Savini, whose background is actually in horror movie special effects and makeup, and he did the makeup and effects for movies like the first Friday the 13th, and on the first Friday the 13th movie, he had a protege, and I can't remember his name, but the guy that was Tom Savini's protege did the makeup and special effects on From Dusk Till Dawn, where Tom Savini was an actor, and I think that is just a really cool like thing, and just a good movie, very weird, but very
it's a
something.
Fun shoot 'em up vampire movie from the late 90s.
From Robert Rodriguez.
90s?
Yeah, it's like 96. It's Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. It's a Quentin Tarantino written movie directed by Robert Rodriguez, who did Spy Kids. It's crazy.
Little Kev watched that movie.
Oh, I
and
bet.
loved every second of it.
I bet.
Huge crush on Selma Hayek.
Oh, dude. Who didn't?
My jam this week is Action Bronson, for sure.
Oh, okay.
Love Action Bronson. It's got that new album coming out. And I've just been, during sparring, because nobody else takes the initiative to turn on music, I come in and I'm like, music? And people are like, whatever you want, Kev. And I just throw it on, like, requests. And somebody requested, there's another Kevin who comes. He requested a song from Tekken. That was pretty cool, but I'm not like, I don't know. I don't want to listen to video game fight music while I'm sparring. Like, I think that's cheesy. So, so I put that on. I don't want to take anything from him, and I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. I was just like, yeah, this is okay. But no, Action Bronson. And I just put on like Action Bronson playlists and shit like that during sparring now. Which has been great because it's, it's rap, it's hip hop. It's got a good rhythm to it. You can kind of move around to it.
Get you going.
So that's my fucking jam this week. Odie, why are you going to be the next Kwisatz Haderach, and how do we know?
Because I love the desert and I'll drink anything.
What's this?
Yep.
I can see the future now, fuckers. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh my god.
That's why.
Where's my concubine? I'm gonna go wage a holy war.
Yep. I'd be okay with that.
Right. Yeah, me too, I guess. I'm gonna have to be.
Yeah, you're gonna be my gurney. So come on.
I'm gonna play guitar and be a smuggler.
Yeah.
All right.
And also kill
people.
It.
Okay, I'm in. Wait, do I get to kill Dave Bautista?
Yes.
I'm in. Oh, catch you later.